We will go ahead and call our meeting to order this evening. We want to welcome everybody here. Our city clerk, Melissa, will now do our roll call.
Commissioner Bauer.
Here.
Commissioner Maxon.
Here.
Commissioner York.
Here.
Vice Mayor Doan.
Here.
Mayor Van Oster.
Here. Our invocation is next, and that will be given by Pastor Shannon Dozer of Life Point Church. We welcome you here this evening, and thank you very much.
Can we bow our heads as we pray? Heavenly Father, Lord God, we thank you tonight for your presence. We need you here tonight, Lord God, and we are encouraged by your word that says that, Lord, you will never leave us nor forsake us, Lord God, especially in times of need. Lord, Psalms 139, Lord God, you encourage us that there is nowhere we could go, Lord, that we would be apart from your presence. So, Lord, tonight we pray that your presence would lead us and guide us, direct us, Lord. It's our desire. Every person in this room, I believe, Lord, has a heart to see Coffeyville prosper, to see it grow. And Lord, we need your wisdom. We need your direction tonight in order to see that accomplished. So Lord, I thank you for these men that you have ordained, these women that you have ordained for these positions. Lord, we believe they're of you. So Lord, I pray for a special blessing upon our mayor, upon our commissioners, that you would lead them and guide them, so show them the steps to take, even in the hardest decisions that we have to make. Lord, I pray we would walk in your favor. And Lord, I pray that you would begin to bless not only our leaders of this community, but bless our people. Bless this community, Lord, as we grow and prosper and walk in your favor. And we thank you for your presence here tonight. Now lead us and guide us, we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor. Thank you very much.
Good to see you.
Okay, quick review of the agenda. Does anybody have any changes they want to make? No? Okay, then it'll stand as is. First item is the consent agenda. Tonight's consent agenda consists of number 1, the City Commission meeting minutes from Tuesday, June 22nd, 2021, and the 2021 appropriation ordinance number AO-21-13 in the amount of $1,352,823.21. Do we have any discussion on any of those items?
Nope. You want to go through?
If you got a list, go ahead.
Sure. So
I'll tag on anything you missed.
all right. So I'll keep it to just a little over a page. How about that? So, $1,352,823 was the appropriation ordinance for this time. Asplin was $5,560. Atmos was $13,228. Brentag was for polymer. It's $14,763. We had some utilities for the city of Coffeyville. That was a little over $17,000. We did have a pretty big one for the city treasurer for health and dental claims. It was $171,644. Clint Perkins Construction for property cleanup, a little under $8,000. CRMC sales tax distribution right at $81,000. Community State Bank for airport, it was the closing on the airport, it was a little over $58,000. Core and Main was for hydrant repairs, $33,400. We had Cox Business, that was for internet, $47,11. Fleet Fuels, that's fuel for all the vehicles, city vehicles, just right at $20,000. G&G Dozer for the house cleanup, that was $21.50. That was just for the roll-offs. And then Hample Oil Distribution, that was for airport fuel. As we all know, we just purchased the airport, so we had to fill our fueling system up, $24,538. And then Kansas City Aviation, that's for a self-service fuel tank, and that was $5,000. Kansas Department of Revenue, that was for taxes, $41,449. KMG Gas Supply, $135,903. Maritane Health, $41,521. That was for life insurance premiums. Midwest Mineral, $6,023. The Nile Hotel for $41.46. That was the sales tax distribution. O'Reilly for vehicle maintenance, $48.61. Olson Associate, $20,199. That was for Highland Road. R&R Lawn Care, that was for lot mowing, $5,208. Romans Motor Company, 2,208. That was for vehicle repair. Had to have a transmission put in a vehicle and some other little things. SEK Ready Mix, $7,070. That was for street repairs, intersections, and just little things. Stevens Vending, 4,106. That was for concessions. Train Systems, that was for the 10th Street sidewalk, and that was for engineering, I believe. That was $6,834. And then I believe the last meeting we approved the vac for the excavator, and we purchased 2 of those. It was $99,189. And then our payroll was $451,202. So I think I hit the big ones. There may have missed one.
You got
but-
everything I had
All
highlighted,
right.
so yeah. I did want to, so the cleanup of 19 properties, so that's on blight or nuisance issues, is that right? So when people wonder where our tax monies go, I mean, to have to spend almost $8,000 to clean up somebody's property is a little bit aggravating. And so we need folks to take a little pride of ownership and clean up their mess. So it would help the city tremendously.
Agreed.
One of them was twice.
Yes.
Cleaned it up, went to another house, came back and had to clean it up again.
Is that
So,
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good times.
It's good use of tax funds, isn't it? Yeah.
Okay, anybody else have anything? Okay, if not, then I will make a motion to approve items 1 and 2 of the consent agenda as presented.
Motion is made by Mayor Van Oster, seconded by Commissioner Maxon to approve items 1 and 2 of the consent agenda as presented. Commissioner Maxon.
Aye.
Commissioner York.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Doan.
Aye.
Mayor Van Oster.
Aye.
Commissioner Bauer.
Aye.
Okay, next item on the agenda are comments from the public. Any citizen desiring to address the commission shall be recognized. Please advance to the podium, state his or her name and address for the record. Comments shall be limited to 3 minutes unless extended by a vote of the majority of the commission. The commission does not hear matters involving litigation or city personnel. The commission does not take action on subjects not on the agenda unless unusual or hardship conditions exist. Citizens may address the commission on agenda items as they are brought to the floor. Do we have anybody here this evening that has anything they'd like to say? Okay, Candy?
Hello, Candy Westbrook
Hello.
from the Chamber of Commerce. I just wanted to give a shout out to all the planners for the summer celebration. It was amazing, great turnout, activities all day, and of course we had some rain challenges, but they worked around it. And I just want to thank everybody that not only supported it by coming out, but all the sponsors and the planners, because that's a huge event for our community, and I think some people forget how lucky we are to have that. So. that was all.
Yes, totally
Very
agree,
thank you,
very
Candy.
agree.
Yes.
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 Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, if not, we will move on to our regular agenda items. We do not have any public hearings, special presentations, or proclamations tonight, and nor do we have any old business. So moving on to new business. Our first item is Resolution R-21-36. It's a resolution to authorize execution of an agreement with the Southeast Kansas Regional Planning Commission for the administration services for the 2021 Kansas Rural Preservation Grant Project from the Kansas State Historical Society. Our Special Projects Coordinator, Mr. Chuck Shively, will make comments.
Mayor and Commission, last February you authorized submittal of a grant application for a Kansas Rural Preservation Grant from the Kansas State Historical Society for repairs to the old Condon Bank building, also known as the Perkins Building. On May 10th, we were notified that our application was selected for funding pending approval by the National Park Service. The National Park Service has now approved the grant, and the Kansas State Historical Society is now working on the grant agreement, which I'll bring for your approval as soon as I receive it. The grant is for $50,000 with a $5,000 city match. This item on the agenda is for an agreement for administrative consulting services for the project with the Southeast Kansas Regional Planning Commission. Their proposed fee for service is $4,500. So I recommend that you approve the resolution authorizing execution of the agreement for administrative consulting services for the project contingent upon receipt and approval of the grant agreement between the Kansas State Historical Society and the City of Coffeyville. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
So are those costs included in the grant fund?
Yes.
Or are they, okay, so they're not a separate cost of part?
No.
Okay, very good.
And I just want to say this is good. I'm very glad that we got this. As much as we can do to preserve our history is very
Right, and
important.
it's-
And that building is a big part of our history.
And that
Badly
tin
needed, yeah.
facade is
Yes.
deteriorating.
Very
Yes.
much needed. Okay.
Very
Anybody
good.
else have any questions?
Nope.
Okay.
There are no other questions. I'll move to approve resolution R2136 as presented.
Second.
Motion is made by Commissioner York, seconded by Commissioner Bauer, to approve Resolution R-21-36 as presented. Commissioner York,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Doan,
Aye.
Mayor Van Oster,
Aye.
Commissioner Bauer,
Aye.
Commissioner Maxon.
Aye.
Excuse me just a second there. Melissa, have you got an extra pen by pen? Thank you. That's scratched through the desk.
Okay, the next item is Resolution R-21-37, which is a resolution to authorize execution of a work authorization for design and construction engineering services for the 2021 Kansas Rural Preservation Grant Project from the Kansas State Historical Society. Once again, our Special Projects Coordinator, Mr. Chuck Shively, will make comments on this.
This item is for design and construction engineering for the same grant project. We have an existing agreement with Trans Systems for general engineering services. This item is for approval of a work authorization under that existing agreement. The proposed fee is at their standard hourly rates not to exceed $4,900. So I recommend that you approve the resolution authorizing execution of a work authorization for engineering services for the grant project contingent upon receipt and approval of the grant agreement between the Kansas State Historical Society and the city. I'd be happy to answer any questions on this one.
And again, that funding's within that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good. I'll move to approve Resolution R-21-37 as presented.
I'll second.
Let's see who she gave it
Motion is
to.
made by Commissioner Bauer.
We're gonna find
Seconded
out.
by Mayor Van Oster to approve Resolution R-21-37 as presented. Vice Mayor Doan,
Aye.
Mayor Van Oster,
Aye.
Commissioner Bauer,
Aye.
Commissioner Maxon,
Aye.
Commissioner York.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you,
Thank
Chuck,
you,
for
Chuck.
everything.
Appreciate it.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is Resolution R-21-38, which is a resolution to approve repairs for a high-voltage bank breaker for the electric utility. Our Director of Electric Utility, Mr. Mike Shook, will make comments.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners.
Good evening. Mike.
Coffeyville's Electric Utilities Substation B on First Street next to the refinery and fertilizer facility serves as our delivery point for the city's power delivery interconnect between Southwest Power Pool, AEP, Evergy, and ultimately Grand River Dam, our wholesale power supply partner. Substation B also serves as our transmission level voltage substation with incoming voltage at 138,000 volts. As part of the original design for Substation B, a series of high voltage capacitors were installed to provide voltage support to the Coffeyville system, CRNF facility, and bolster voltage on the regional grid as needed, typically during summer months like this. The capacitor banks are equipped with a load breaking device or breaker designed to operate at 138,000 volts in front of the capacitor banks, allowing our system operators to place in or remove from service as needed and as requested. The capacitor bank breaker is now 20 years old, requiring maintenance due to a hydraulic oil leak. Staff's been working with our consulting substation engineer and have reached out to ABB, the original equipment manufacturer for this breaker, and their regional partner, Rackman High Voltage Sales, to obtain pricing for parts, field analysis recommendations, and on-site technical service to facilitate repairs to this breaker. ABB has provided a scope of services proposal to assist Coffeyville staff in making these on-site repairs, including providing additional preventive maintenance recommendations and testing measures to ensure an extended life for this breaker. Please note in the staff report pricing, I've added a contingency fee of 15% or $8,809 just to allow for additional spending authority if needed. Therefore, staff is recommending that the mayor be authorized to direct the Director of Finance to issue a purchase order in the amount of $67,535 to Rackman High Voltage Sales for on-site technical assistance and repairs for a high voltage capacitor bank breaker for the electric utility. And I'd be happy to try to answer any questions that you may have.
So how many of these breakers are at that substation?
One.
And you have the ability to kill the power going to it to work on it?
Our plan is to take advantage of an outage that the fertilizer plant's going to have,
Let's see, yeah.
and generally when that happens, we take advantage of that and try to get all of our maintenance done for our equipment that serves them.
Yeah.
So
Downtime for them
Yeah.
is pretty expensive, so.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any questions?
What
Okay.
do they think we'll do as far as, so maintaining this particular breaker, what's the life expectancy then once that's completed?
generally they're 30 to 40 years is
Okay.
typically a life expectancy for electrical equipment, but we've got stuff in the field that's much older than that. It's all maintenance is the key.
Do we have a backup for this?
We do not.
So
It
if
was
it goes
not-
out, it's just down
And it's different from all the other 69,000 volt, 138 volt breakers because it's actually breaking voltage for a capacitor bank. So
How long have we had the oil leak on this one?
about a year and a half
So we put it off as long as we can.
we have.
All right.
Yep.
What's the cost of a new breaker, Mike? Any idea?
Close to 200,000.
Would it behoove us to look at having a backup for that?
We've looked at that and actually looked at going a cheaper route, putting in circuit switchers. That's a little less costly than a breaker itself, but it's pretty involved. So we're still studying because right now we have to make a voltage. If we wanted to put another set of capacitor banks in service, we have two. If we wanted to put the extra set in service because of a sagging voltage issue, we have to make the situation worse before we can put the other one on.
Okay.
So to fix that, we would have to have an additional circuit switcher or breaker. So we've been looking at that for about a year.
Okay. I figured you had, but, yeah.
Just trying to find the most efficient way to do it.
All right. If there's nothing else, I will move to approve Resolution R-21-38 as presented.
I'll second.
Motion is made by Mayor Van Oster, seconded by Commissioner York to approve Resolution R-21-38 as presented. Mayor Van Oster.
Aye.
Commissioner York.
Aye.
Commissioner Bauer.
Aye.
Commissioner Maxon.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Dome.
Aye.
Okay. Thank
Thank
you
you, Mike.
very
Thank you,
much.
Commissioner.
All right. Okay, moving on, we have Resolution R-21-39, which is a resolution to approve roof repair projects for the electric department. Once again, our Director of Electric Utility, Mr. Mike Shirk, will make comments.
Mayor and Commissioners, the current roofing materials are roofing membranes on the electric distribution building on Spring Street and the steam power plant on Santa Fe are well beyond their life cycle and currently have leak issues. Utility staff has worked with an industrial roofing consultant to evaluate the condition of the roofs and estimate repairs and/or replacement for these roofs or roof sections. The current roofs that we have up there are the rubber EPDM, Firestone, Goodyear, with a ballast, a rock ballast type construction, whereas the membrane is applied over insulation blocks. The membrane's put down and bonded, and then a washed rock material is put on top of it. These types of applications generally have a 15 to 25-year life cycle, and all of our current EPDM roofs are older than 25 years. Staff had sought pricing for replacement of this type of roofing. However, it's proven difficult since no area contractors source this type of roofing product, and the supply chain for EPDM roofing is at best 6 to 8 months out. Visiting with Jim Bradshaw and Thomas Osborne, it was noted that City Hall had a new roof in 2016 using a product named TPO, or thermoplastic polyolefin, which was also applied on a Perkins building and has performed well since the application. So we sought pricing from Jeff Graham Construction, the contractor that installed those two previous roofs. Based on previous estimates as provided by the roofing consultant, the TPO membrane costs are 40 to 50% less than the standard EPDM, while offering similar warranties. Therefore, staff is recommending that the mayor be authorized to execute a construction agreement with Jeff Graham Construction for 3 roofing projects with the electric utility totaling $245,669.55. And I'd be happy to try to answer any questions that you may have.
So what fund is that coming out of? Is it capital outlay or is it?
810 fund, which is the electric reserve fund. We've actually carried this in the budget for several years and have planned on spending up to $250,000 a year, but since this is a little bit cheaper, we can get it attacked and hopefully get some of the leaks fixed.
If you don't have a
Right.
good roof, you do a lot more damage than just roof leaks. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Okay. Anybody else have anything you want to bring up? No? Okay. If not, I'll move to approve Resolution R-21-39 as presented.
Second.
Motion is made by Mayor Van Oster, seconded by Commissioner Maxson to approve Resolution R-21-39 as presented. Commissioner Bauer.
Aye.
Commissioner Maxson.
Aye.
Commissioner York.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Doan.
Aye.
Mayor Van Oster.
Aye.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Commissioners.
Aye, very much. Okay, moving on to our next one, we have Resolution R-21-40, which is a resolution to approve the asphalt overlay project for Cheyenne Street. Our Director of Public Works, Mr. Jim Bradshaw, will make comments. Jim?
Mayor and Commissioners, in February of this year, during the extreme winter conditions, we had a section of Cheyenne Street fail in the area between West 2nd and West 3rd. City crews excavated the asphalt in the unstable base, which varied between 24 and 32 inches in depth. Crews then rebased with base rock to allow traffic to flow. Crews were able to have 2 asphalt contractors visit the site and submit costs to overlay. The section that was removed and rebased will need to be excavated again to allow for a 4-inch asphalt base material. The removal of this section of base rock will be completed by city crews once a schedule is put in place by the contractor. Staff has recommended that the mayor be authorized to direct the finance director to execute a construction contract in the amount of $98,560 to Brent Bell Construction for asphalt overlay project on Cheyenne Street, as well as West 4th east of Cheyenne. Attached to my staff report are the quotes that was received and a map detailing where the work will be performed. Try to answer any questions you might have.
So do we know the root cause of that failure?
We had extreme freezing temperatures. We were dealing with approximately 1.5 inches of asphalt in that area with severe cracking and alligating. Moisture got in with the freeze and the thaw. The base got wet, was unable to stabilize, so that was the reason for the failure.
Are there any utilities under that?
No, not in that area, no.
Good.
Anybody else have anything?
I'll move to approve Resolution R-21-40 as presented.
Second.
Motion is made by Commissioner Bauer, seconded by Commissioner York to approve Resolution R-21-40 as presented. Commissioner Maxson.
Aye.
Commissioner York.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Doan.
Aye.
Mayor Van Oster.
Aye.
Commissioner Bauer.
Aye.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Jim,
Jim.
very much. Okay, moving on to our next resolution, and actually the next 5 resolutions, I believe, will be presented to us by our city manager, Mark Hall. The first one is Resolution R-21-41, which is a resolution to fund the Coffeyville Airport operation acquisition. So, Mark?
Mayor, Commissioners, for your consideration tonight. The airport, as you're aware, the last 37 years have been under the FBO. The FBO due to reasons, decided not to renew the lease, and therefore, as of June 1st, the city took over the operation. It is one of those that during our 2021 budget, these costs were not budgeted in. Therefore, we've been putting together funds that are available to keep the airport going. It is one of those, I think you're aware, not only for the safety of the community, but economically, the city needs an airport. There is some concerns with the building. Of course, you can imagine with the FBO being there 37 years and then coming in, and these are the things that you have to do. We purchased the fueling station and tanks. Of course, we take over the building. The roof needs repaired. All these things inside the FBO is dated, and it is one of those in desperate need of, I want to say, care. So through all of this, it is one of those, what I'm requesting for the city commission to consider is this is an estimated to cover those costs and go ahead and repair those is from the Economic Development Fund that $250,000 be allowed to be used for the airport. With that being said, that we are in the process and have received notification of one grant. We are in the process of another grant, and we are checking on the possibility of another grant. Any grants that are obtained during this process will be returned, will be utilized for the repairs, but any funds that are not used by the Economic Development Fund will be returned. It is one of those, our intention is to keep a viable airport, that with a city without an airport is a city that has no growth for the future. But 37 years and you become complacent. It is one of those, we name Jared Powers as the Director of Airport Services. He is out there full time. We are fueling. In fact, we've utilized a hangar that hasn't been utilized for quite some time. We are getting customer responses just by the city taking over that the city is going to put their best foot forward in this. We have done things to, which we need more improvements, but we have where if a pilot lands in off hours, they will be able to enter a code and go inside and use the bathroom, or which in the future it'll be a work table or planning table. So there's a lot of things that people are seeing come on now, but they're excited that the city does have that. They've had a great experience, and I want to compliment Jared, of course, Thomas, all those that have worked, city staff, the finance department. It is, you can imagine, suddenly saying, this is yours, and you can't say, well, we don't want it. We have the operation, and we've got to continue it, and we've got to pay for it. But our intention is to seek out as many funds as we can to replace whatever is used out of the economic fund. And so for your consideration tonight is to allow that fund transfer, and why we continually, and I will say, we do have one grant that we have two grants that will be used to offset that. So for your consideration tonight is the transfer of that to the airport fund, why we continually work to make repairs.
So with budgets coming up over the next 2 nights, so where there'll be a new budget established for that operation going into this next year?
That will be the transfer. We'll be discussing it more. Right now, it gives to what we've been using to fund this. We cannot, just based on Kansas cash basis
Right.
law, we have to have the funds to do it. This would be a transfer now. It will reflect in the budget when going forward.
Okay.
And that way we can, like I say,
Just give you
discuss
spending
that.
authority within that budget to do what you need to do. Yeah.
So that does, and like I say, our intention is as we go forward, we'll be on stable ground, I think, sooner than later. And of course, like I say, some of the patrons that do utilize the airport, we had one story of a gentleman that refused to come to the airport. He was actually looking for hangar space and sit there and couldn't find any other. He had been here, but we'll just say he didn't have a pleasant experience. And he did come here, and his comment was, I'll be glad to come here again. So we're doing great things, and we'll get this on track, but just taking it over, there's, tugs and things that I've learned in aviation that you've got to have, and fueling, and eventually that with this will be a card system. So they could, instead of before, if somebody landed, unless they did a call out, they basically landed and then took off. This way they can land and actually fuel. So these are all the things that are coming.
It's a good move. Yeah.
Very good, very
The
good.
only thing I would add is so since I've been on the commission, the Economic Development Fund has been a very hot topic
Oh,
within
yeah.
the commission, as we all are very well aware. But I think this lends well to exactly why we have that development fund, right? I mean, I think this really works right into that wheelhouse, especially if we have the opportunity to pay ourselves back, right?
Yes.
So that's the only piece I would add to it, because I'm sure we'll get some pushback from individuals around town as they hear this, but that's what it's for, right?
Yes.
I mean, if we don't have an airport, to your point, we aren't going to be very prosperous in the
That's
future
right.
to
Yes,
move
sir.
forward. So,
It's also utilizing those funds to generate more funds.
Exactly.
So it does pay back.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Can we get a list of the items?
Yes,
Kind of a
I can
wish
furnish
list that we
those
would
and,
have for the airport,
yes,
just so we can kind of keep in mind the
Yeah.
route we're wanting to go to.
you bet.
Thank
I'll
you.
get that to you, and it is, Thomas and those prepared. It has a list of the repairs and those costs which they confirmed.
Very good.
Good things.
All right.
So if
Okay.
there's no other question, the mayor will move to approve resolution R2141 as presented.
I'll second.
Motion is made by Commissioner York, seconded by Mayor Van Oster to approve Resolution R-21-41 as presented. Commissioner York,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Doan,
Aye.
Mayor Van Oster,
Aye.
Commissioner Bauer,
Aye.
Commissioner Maxon.
Okay. The next one will be Resolution R-21-42, which is a resolution to fund new construction of offices at City Hall. Mark?
Mayor and Commissioners, for your consideration tonight, if you'll go to the first drawing, that might give us an idea or give you an explanation of what we are doing. As you're aware that down and some call it the basement, some call it first floor, we do have an area that during the City Hall construction was not finished. It is one of those, as we go forward, there is definite need, especially with housing, which we wish to group. And what I've discussed is, as we go forward, housing department will grow. And that is expected to be funded by federal programs. And that is good, but we do need office space for that. Our intention is to move engineering, code enforcement, building inspection, and housing all together in a group for one-stop shopping. You can come in, of course, the reception area, if you see in there, that is a glass window. It is where somebody can come in, and then they can go to see housing. You're going to have building inspection right there, code enforcement, and then, of course, Thomas the engineer. Is that right, Thomas? You'll be downstairs? Okay. Anyway, it is one of those that this is what we intend to do. If you'll notice, there's another piece in this, and as you can see, it would be to the center of your page where there's an office, and reception area. That would be offered to the juvenile justice. It was one of those. It does not mean that they will take it. It is, they've asked us for additional space. We have a fee that would be a monthly fee, but would be to provide them with that space in this construction. But should they not, that is construction that we will not perform. So it would, in a sense, lessen the project. We are taking the contractor position in this, which you always save money. We will sit there and have our subs come in and do different parts of the work, and therefore controlling some costs. The estimate that we have for this, the construction department, is $170,000. I wish to explain the fund that you would authorize this to come from. It is one of those that we in building and that we have a capital improvement sales tax fund. This fund is a part of of all the construction that was being done. Therefore, this will not hurt that fund, and it is for their intended use. We did have a discussion with legal counsel in Wichita, is if this is appropriate to utilize those funds for that. And it complies with that, and it is, in a sense, it's a capital improvement. And what you see around is some of those improvements that took place. So this does not go to the economic fund. This is out of a fund that is utilized for capital improvement through the sales tax. So,
And that fund does regenerate, correct, through the sales tax?
Beg your pardon?
That fund does regenerate through sales tax? Right?
yes, it's driven by the
Right.
sales tax
Right.
collection.
And it's, I believe, a half cent for that one, if I remember correctly.
Is that, yes,
Yeah.
yes, that is. So that is, and like I say, this construction project is we intend as we go forward to use different funds instead of always, going to economic. So
Yep.
these funds are available, and with your approval, that way we could get this construction down and be utilized.
All right. Anybody have any specific questions?
Nope.
Sounds good. Something to move forward to on. So if no further questions, I will move to approve Resolution R-21-42 as presented.
Second.
Motion is made by Mayor Van Oster, seconded by Vice Mayor Doan to approve Resolution R-21-42 as presented. Vice Mayor Doan.
Aye.
Mayor Van Oster.
Aye.
Commissioner Bauer.
Aye.
Commissioner Maxon.
Aye.
Commissioner York.
Aye.
All right, moving on. Our next one is Resolution R-21-43, which is a resolution to fund the Emergency Services Construction Project.
Mayor, Commissioners, for your consideration tonight, would like to discuss we have the old fire station, and as you're aware, we do store emergency services equipment in that. It is one of those that the question has always been that of the building, and there is roof problems and leakage. And staff went out to get bids and have what is the total cost to replace that roof. I had sent the information, and roughly it's $113,000 to replace that roof. With that, there is a need, and at that time, it's been discussed over previous years of, getting rid of that building and then building a storage. What I'm here tonight is saying that in the future can be discussed on that building as far as its future. It is right now, another fund that we have is, and it's going to be capital equipment again, but it's a different fund, is the capital improvement fund. It is not the sales tax fund. This is a capital improvement that is dedicated for capital improvements of the city. This project would fit with that. It is one of those, we will take a contractor's position again. We will sub out the work. We will purchase the building to lower our costs. It is not going to be a turnkey where somebody is going to do it all. We do have those estimates and quotes from the people that are doing the work in the building company. It is with this fund, it again is like the capital improvement sales tax, is this fund will be, as far as not to draw from the economic fund, it is intended for capital improvement. So that's where these funds would come from. Construction, we do have, because of the steel situation, there will probably be a 6 week, month wait, but it is one of those we could get our name in. This is a larger building for future. I know at one time how many doors you need. We went with a standard building. We didn't go with a spec building. We went with a stand building to sit there and lower those costs. It is one of those, this will be heated just because of possibility of water. It will not be cooled. It will have a drain in it in at least one bay. It will be 50 by 100. There is roughly between the doors 13 feet of space. So not only will we have 4 doors, and you can see in your picture, that's just giving you an idea. This will be plain Jane, but look nice and professional, but it will allow us to store all of our equipment, police and fire in there, and then have, should there be other needs, to store more. At first, originally, I think it was a 50 by 50 building that was out there. So this kind of moving forward puts something that we can start, and then should at some time the city commission wish to act on the fire station, the proceeds from that sale will go back into this capital improvement fund. So there is a return on investment in a way as we build this, and then should the commission decide sometime in the future, that's how it will be handled.
So the capital improvement fund comes directly from property taxes, is that correct?
That was,
levy.
what would you best way to describe that is the,
Okay.
Things that have been different things. Okay,
Okay.
all right.
Will
And-
the, so the police department has the MRAP, will that be able to be?
Oh,
stored in
yeah.
there?
Okay,
in fact, has been a lot of questions, where we're gonna put that monster, and
Yes.
it is.
Takes a pretty good door to put that thing in.
And like I say is,
It's gotta have
we were gonna
more than
cram-
4-inch concrete
Yeah,
floors
yeah.
too, I think.
originally was trying to cram it in a 50 by 50, but you can imagine now, each department would basically have a 50 by 50
Right.
space.
for themselves.
Right.
So
Okay.
everything
Where on the
should
lot
go.
would we place this?
Beg your pardon?
Where, what location on the lot would this? be
This
placed?
will be right at the emergency services.
So over where the tennis courts, well, you wouldn't know.
Where they
Yes,
have, where they have
in
the
that-
cars out.
Yeah, yeah.
Roughly,
Yeah.
roughly
Yeah.
in that area.
Yeah.
In that way, like say, when the emergency service building, right now, we come down and we have to service the fire equipment.
Yep.
And so they have to leave that, come down here, open up, start up the fire engine, do this, and then shut it down, and then go back. So it is one of those, getting everything in one location. Of course, the police will love to have the monster close by should we have to use it.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Makes it much more convenient.
Yes.
okay.
I see on here, talks about the doors, electric heat, the flooring, and being insulated. Is there any consideration for ventilation in there to have a fan to, so you're talking about fire equipment, police equipment, all that being out in the weather and then bringing it in and storing it, to circulate the air to dry it out, maybe a big fan or,
We're looking at just a roof vent, but it is one of those, The insulation will keep some down the heat, but most of them is like I say, it's not going to cause any problems. We're looking at heat, and it warms up, and like we see this, you're going to have 3 months where you'll have extreme heat. It is one of those, should we need to do something more in ventilation, we can add to that.
Okay.
But it is with the idea of keeping this as simple, and then if we see the need, then we'll add.
We can access that. Okay, that's good. And just to reiterate what you said, contingent upon what we do with the old fire station. Then
That will
those
be left up to
funds-
the commission
Right.
for a future decision.
Right, and should it sell, if that's what happens.
Those
funds,
proceeds-
just so that people understand, those funds will be returned to this capital improvement fund that we just took out of to,
Yes, ma'am.
if we're going to take out of to do this. Okay, all right. Okay, if there's no further questions, I'll move to approve Resolution R-21-43 as presented.
Second.
Motion is made by Mayor Van Oster, seconded by Commissioner Maxson to approve Resolution R-21-43 as presented. Mayor Van Oster.
Aye.
Commissioner Bauer.
Aye.
Commissioner Maxson.
Aye.
Commissioner York.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Doan.
Okay. Moving on, our next resolution is number R-21-44, which is a resolution to approve an interlocal cooperation agreement between the city and USD 445.
Mayor and Commissioners, for your consideration tonight is an interlocal agreement. It is one of the best way to explain this, that under our jurisdiction by Kansas statute is our responsibility to perform building inspection within the city limits. With this project of the school going forward, it is usually customary that you would sit there in the size of the project, you would offer to the school, which this interlocal would, is that we could hire an engineering firm to do the inspection and pass those costs on to the project. They already have a close relationship with an engineering firm, and therefore they could use that engineering firm for the inspection, but they will still comply with city code. And as you're aware, you passed, we do the ICC Building Code 2018. So the engineering firm, which would be doing brake testing for the concrete, other such things, will work for actually USD 445. So this agreement just passes that on. It is sent to the AG. I feel there shouldn't be any trouble in that, but it does go on and it establishes, because it is our responsibility by Kansas statute to do this, and we are on this project, and it's specific, passing that on to the school should they accept the interlocal agreement. So both parties will need to sign if the commission chooses to move forward.
And our code, from what I understand from reading that, our code enforcement will meet with their engineers
Yes,
to make
we're-
sure that we're all on the same
Yes,
page.
and that
Yeah,
is,
yeah.
it's cooperative. It is one of those that, there should be no surprises, and, there's a learning that goes with it. We do have Thomas that can actually speak engineer,
Yes.
so he can
Quite
understand,
well, actually, yeah.
what they're talking about, but it is one of those that our building inspection will work close with that in gaining knowledge of what they're looking for in the process of this project.
But it also puts compliance on that engineering firm.
Yes.
As far as liabilities go, moving forward.
Yes, should anything fail, it goes on the engineer or the contractor. The city is, and it's just a smart move on that. Stoppage of the project will be solely on the engineer.
Anything else?
No, I don't.
I'll move to approve Resolution R-21-44 as presented.
Second.
Motion is made by Commissioner Maxson, seconded by Commissioner York to approve Resolution R-21-44 as presented. Commissioner Bauer.
Aye.
Commissioner Maxson.
Aye.
Commissioner York.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Doan.
Aye.
Mayor Van Oster.
Aye. Okay, our next one is ordinance G dash 21-05, which is an ordinance to establish licensing and operation requirements for mobile food vendors.
Mayor and Commissioners, for your consideration tonight, you have a mobile food vendors ordinance. To give you a little and trying to sum up what the ordinance would be, it follows along with and is set up according to our code book. The information that's contained in here came from Wichita, Derby, Gardner, Garden City, Liberal, and Overland Park. It is one of those that kind of took and emerged and tried to customize it to fit Coffeyville. This is new to the city. We do not have an ordinance addressing this. It is one of those, this is our first attempt. If you'll notice in which we have in there that if somebody wishes to enforce this, the cost is $50 for 3 days, 75 for basically a month, and 150 for the 6 months, and then you have a total cost of $300 for 1 year. It is one of those that the surrounding area, one of our neighbors, the annual cost is $400. So this is $100 cheaper. It goes through and tries to is our main concern is for safety and health. It does sit there and say that which people are in this industry that we would require if they are in the city limits. One, they're not in public right-of-ways. They're on the private property, but then also it is one of those that they be inspected by the health. We do have an obligation to inspect those for function like hookups to propane and these kind of electrical hookups. That's just part of our jurisdiction of building inspection. You do have fire in case there is something. There does several pieces, and remember, this is new to Coffeyville. But it does say that they also are expected to have a sales tax ID. Right now under Kansas law, and I think Gail talked about it during his presentation, right now under Kansas tax law, that if you come in 6 days or less, basically it's an honor system to report your sales tax. The event coordinator does contact the state. We have contacted the state just to let them know that this event's going on. It is left to the coordinator to go out and explain to them that if you are operating 6 days or less, you're expected to be honorable and send those sales tax that you collected, which they would match up to the event, to the state. That is an honor system, and that is the responsibility of the coordinator. As what Gil said is he was given the papers, his obligation is to inform. It's not for him to go around and count money or do that. It is, the other thing is we have is just the honor, is the thing is, if people are in this business, which I will stress, they have to be in the mobile food vendor business. This does not include, Girl Scout cookies. This does include, somebody that goes out and sits there and throws it up. I shouldn't have said throws us up. Sorry about that. Didn't mean that way. But it is just pop up and offer hamburgers. You can imagine, a lot of times school have people come in for a tailgating party or this stuff. It is one of those, this is somebody that's in the business, and this is what it addresses in the business. Ours is, there is a fine piece in that. that if you come in the city and you're operating, there is a fine. But it is one of those that this idea is that if you're going to come in, that we know you're inspected, and this is usually comes that by state requirements as a food handler, be it a brick and mortar or a mobile food vendor, that you have an inspection by the state. This will be annual. It will be one of those that inspection will be required when the city issues you this license. So it is one of those, it details, and I think you can, basically, is that if you're in this business, you will be on private property. There is two that were customized, that is a city-sponsored or sanctioned event. And with that is those or a special event. Basically, if the city approves, we would waive the fee piece to this. That way is if they came in for the fair, the city can say that's anxious, and we would not expect anybody to pay a 3-day fee or that. We still would go and sit there and go to the coordinator and saying, you need to get this information and you need to pass on to that. So it is one of those, it was kind of taking that into consideration, that certain events, not only by the city, but special events, we put that trust into them. Just like if we had one, we would pick a coordinator and they'd take care of it for us. So that is what you have before you. There's certain exemptions. There is one of those that it's pretty long, it's pretty heavy. I killed a lot of trees. Our city attorney looked that over, and it was trying to condense. There's some of these that go 30 pages long. This one was just trying to mold this for the future, and that way give people an idea of exemptions, size. It's just, it even has fire extinguishers that are needed. So that's what you have before you tonight. City staff is because this is kind of immense and our first step. The commission is always welcome, that is, of course, to approve it as presented. But we do understand, should the commission wish to tweak it or something like that, we can always work on this to get it right. So this is our first attempt. We think it took the good and trying to make it clear from all those cities I mentioned. There's certain things that we just couldn't put in there just based on, we are not Overland Park, we are not Wichita, we're not Derby. So that's what you have before you for your consideration tonight.
As you said, there's quite a bit to this ordinance, and while some of it I think is good, some of it I think is a little bit of an overreach for Coffeyville. The first question that hit me when I was reading through this is, so what businesses in Coffeyville do we require licensing for?
We currently don't.
So we have, I believe pawn shops are required to have an operating license.
Yes, I mean, as far as
Tattoo
in
parlors are
the food
required.
service
Right,
industry,
but
we
right
don't.
now, we don't have any other, so our brick and mortar locations are not required to have a license to operate.
Usually in cities of the first class which we're in, they do require that.
It's not to operate, but you still have to have your
You-
food.
You have to have your health inspection.
Health
right?
inspection
Which
and-
the
Yeah.
mobiles do.
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
I mean, they have to have
Which
their
is
health
true,
inspections
but
too, so,
usually
yeah.
an additional fee a city will charge. Of course, it's usually less than what is a mobile food vendor, because not only does the brick and mortar pay property taxes, it is fixed and it cannot move, so sales tax collection is pretty guaranteed, whereas the mobile could actually move and be transient and go on weekends and do things. So you are correct that, we are not we currently do not address the, food industry or restaurant industry in saying that
Well,
this.
or
this-
any other than those two, right? I
Yes.
mean, so, none of the others are required to have a license either, so, in going into that and reading through this, under the exceptions clause, I was reading about, so auctioneers generally have a food vendor at their auctions, right? Now, so sometimes it's a Relay for Life team or somebody like
Yeah.
that sets up, under a pop-up
Fundraising,
tent,
yeah.
right? Are they exempted under this, or do they?
What
they
we
be
would
required
run
to have-
into is this is mainly for those that are designed that this is their business instead of a pop-up weekend or something like that. This is more designed in that. You can imagine that, I'm gonna set up and I have a concession trailer for sporting events. And I'm just selling, soft drinks and these things. Those things would probably, not be a concern to us. It's actually somebody that's in the business that you go to and you trust that the food that you're receiving is safe and they are collecting sales tax and this stuff. So that would be more of what we would look for.
And when we get into, this is still under, the license application process, we're asking them to do background checks on all their employees to ensure that there's no sex offenders.
That was a piece that Wichita, Derby, and all of them had. It is one of those, was the idea that you wouldn't, I want to say we get into that with a liquor license,
Yeah.
that,
Well, that was what I was gonna question. Do we require any of the other businesses
To do that.
do a
no,
background
the
check?
only
to ensure
background
that- yeah.
checks we basically get into is a liquor license.
So if we're wanting tweaks, what's the best course of action to take?
If you like some, we can sit down, and I think with commissioners and representatives, we can go through and strike out, but we can kind of show and sit down and get this to, I think the intent is that if you're going to come in and just set up, I think the intent is you're going to do business, well, you do it right, but it is not a penalty to sit there and say, you've got to jump through hoops to get there. I would, if the commission enters that, we can start immediately and sit down and just start going through this, things that don't like, and then customize this to something that you would like. I think it's a good step in the direction. Right now, what we are doing, and the best way to say it is during turnaround, we actually is, because we have nothing requiring, we had nothing requiring that they have a sales tax, ID or remit to the state. It is one of those, it's a great thing and nobody likes, but it is one of those that you had anybody coming in and taking business, and I say this respectfully, is coming in, taking business from local vendors.
Oh, I agree.
And that is where what we required is because we had nothing on the books, we required that they go over and get basically a peddlers or transient vendor license, and they go over to the county. So they had to go clear to the county, then come back and show us proof of that or registration, and then we issued, and based on, and I think it was $50 for 3 days, and we followed that. That was the only thing that we were trying to do in an effort to sit there and honor a local business, that somebody can't just walk in and sit there and for our local restaurants sit there that pay property taxes, that feed Coffeyville, and basically said you can come in and the turnaround's immense.
Well,
And
we
said,
need food trucks during turnaround. We
Absolutely.
can't provide for all the people that are in town.
but
But it'd be nice to have,
But
good
that's what
quality.
our intent was, and there was a lot that you saw it there that complied. It still worked, but that's what we used. And so I say in this, if the commission wishes to, we can keep working on this. It doesn't have to say that it's written in stone. it was just so broad to try to sit there and say we covered every angle. If you'd like to narrow it down, we can continually work it. I think it's good business with the idea that it protects the local restaurants. The long-termers, we welcome. We welcome them, and we've had, one or two or this that are long-term. But to sit there, and I came from as many as there was 27 of these things going on at once. And you have to have some control, because if it gets away from you, then you do. You have basically all the brick and mortar, it becomes a divide. And it is, I'm spending this to sit there and have a place you can sit down and eat. I've got restrooms and I've got this. I'm doing all this, and then you're coming in, you show up, the guy lets you in on the lot and sits there and goes, well, as long as you give me $50 or $100, I'll let you sell off on my lot right next door. So that, I think, is something that can be worked out.
And encouraging food trucks to come to the area, and, some of them do enough business, they do go brick and mortar.
They do.
Yeah,
They
and
grow
that
and they
is,
have to,
that's the hope. That's the hope.
Yeah.
This is a relatively low cost to get into the restaurant business.
Yeah.
I think it's a step in the right direction. I'm just afraid that it's a little onerous on some of them, and I think
Frightening.
it needs a little bit of tweaks. Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah.
kind of gathering here that maybe we would like to table this for right now.
That would
And
be my
then meet.
Well, and that's it.
and go
That
over
is fine.
has
It
to
is
not-
one of
yeah.
those, sometimes the first thing you throw out isn't the right thing. So
No,
be
that's
glad to
fine.
work with the commission on that and get this to where it needs to be.
Okay. So being with that said, I will move to table ordinance G 21-05.
Second.
Motion is made by Mayor Van Oster, seconded by Vice Mayor Doan to table ordinance G-21-05 as presented. Commissioner Maxson.
Aye.
Commissioner York.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Doan.
Aye.
Mayor Van Oster.
Aye.
Commissioner Bauer.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you
you.
all, commissioners.
Okay.
Your insight is appreciated.
All right, we will now move on to item number 11 under new business, which is the City of Coffeyville housing presentation.
Sorry, I got to stand up for this.
Yeah.
We didn't notice.
Wow. Gonna go there.
I do have my chair.
It's not short on the notes.
It is one of those married commissioners. I'll try to keep this brief and to the point. I know you understand, and of course you approve the creation of the housing department. This is what kind of an update that you've seen, some of the numbers you've seen. We're basically is putting it out in public. Of course, you're aware that we have a strategic housing plan 2030, and our theme on all our strategic plans is envision the possibility. We also have, this is a component that goes with it. This details what we're going to do, how we're going to get there, and it is a housing component guidelines. It gives us a way to move through this and down the road. Both of these work together, but this is the one that kind of guides us that we're going to tweak more. The other we'll update with the information is Coffeyville's changes, and that's the strategic plan. It is one of those understanding is Coffeyville, and this is where I've found that things change and people start understanding our situation is our population. Population drives everything for us. We have to have population. If you'll notice and you're aware, in 1960 we had 17,382 citizens in Coffeyville. It felt big because we were drawing workers into Coffeyville. So that statement of it felt like 25,000 is probably true and correct. The thing is, by 2018, the city lost 46% of their population over that about 20 years to 9,366. It is one of those, this causes great concern Because as we looked at the population of 9,306, it said Coffeyville has a population that is comparable to 1908. So if you went back in time to 1908, you'd have the same number of people that you have right now. And that is you can imagine over that years, 112 years, to sit there and say we have the same population as 1908 is something we've got to change the direction on. I think the commission has seen this. This is just the numbers based on the census report. It is one of those that if you actually want to see it on a graph, as we're going through, because you can see this line here in 9,366, and this in 1900 was 4,953. It is one of those, you can see those peak years, and this in 1960 was the 17,382. I found that in going over and discussing this, there's a lot of stories. There's a lot of people that were around in 1960 to sit there and tell these great stories. And as that decline went down, then you started hearing the stories of, instead of, oh my gosh, this wasn't here when I was little, you're hearing, oh, there used to be something there, and there's nothing anymore. The thing that is troubling as we look at housing is we have a poverty rate of 29. This is in 2020. We do not have the official. This is the estimate. Is our poverty rate is 29.26. Basically, 1 out of every 3.4, and yes, Justin, don't say I'm the 0.4. I'm the 0.4 person. 1 out of 3.4 people lives below the poverty line. We are getting close to, at 33%, is a third. A third of the citizens living in Coffeyville is below the poverty line. But there is, and going forward, this is a thing that the glass is half full. It's not half empty. And I do. Coffeyville is a great town. This is just showing the picture that we have to move forward. It is one of those that if you're looking for a number, is the 2,740 residents that are below the poverty line. If we wanted to look, what is the state? Current state estimate, and it's actually fallen, is 11.4%. That's the state average. You can see what we are, is we're getting close to 3 times the state average. If you look down here in the United States, and it's 10.5. So this shows where we're at and what we need to do and gives us a direction. The next is as we look and understand Coffeyville's past, it is one of those that roughly there is 3,642 jobs considered in Coffeyville. With 3,642 jobs considered in Coffeyville, of that, only 35% live within the city limits. That's it, 35%. If you wanted to know, that is 1,274 out of all those workers live here. The rest of that, which would be this, 2,368 live outside Coffeyville. You're aware of it. Everyone I've talked to is aware of it. They live in Bartlesville, Owasso, Independence, Edna. Do we have an Edna? Yeah, we have an Edna. It is one of those that they live outside. They're not paying property taxes here. They're coming here to work. They do spend money. I don't want to say that. But you can imagine this is half full. This is a pool that we want to draw from. This is where we want to go with housing. These are the people that are living somewhere else, and some of them live in apartments. Some of them live in a house that it costed them too much. This right here is what we want to go after. So that's that half full. It is one of those that if in a perfect world you wanted to know, if we were able to take the average household and then the average family, Coffeyville's population, if we could capture 100%, right now would be 14,694 to 16,223. That's what, if we could in a perfect world, capture it. It is one of those that understanding the conditions is what we want to look into is, right now, the median annual income is roughly $35,000. If you looked at the United States, it's 61. It is one of those to actually sit there and go, is that going up? That's a good sign. A good sign is that in 1960, the average median income was $33,000. The thing is with that is, because of the income base, is they tend to be renters. Okay? So what we want to do is we took and what Charla and Thomas, the building inspection department, they're going through and analyzing this and looking at what could people afford to build. This is just took the high-end segments that are underlined and sit there and said, how much of the population is in that area? We can go through and look and sit there and say chunks that anybody, this group right here below 35,000 represents this many people that we would go after. Now, of course, there's women and children and that in there, and families and this stuff, but it is sitting there going, we can get an idea of the population. It does, in lending, they used to have the old standard that your debt service could not be more than 33%. That's the old standard, it's went up. But it was something that you go, when you did your house payment, your principal and interest, taxes and insurance, and then your car payment and this, you couldn't go over 33% of your income. That used to be the old standard. We want to stick to that. Because we want to look at is, later on, is how much of a loan could you get to build a new house based on your income. This is sitting there going, these are some of the things in the history. It uses the 2014 market analysis, it uses the census report, but it is saying these are things that Coffeyville in this summary is we've got to start addressing if we want to go forward. It is one of those that 49, which you remember back, almost 50%, their household income is below 35,000. But that explains the poverty. So it is something that we have to design programs on down here to up here. Sit there and do great things for Coffeyville. State of the housing, it is one of those you're all aware, and I think we went over this, that 459 houses were lost during the flood. Boom, they're gone. There's your housing stock, which roughly is about 10%. And then we have this, the blighted, and I will use Commissioner York, but it is one of those that since 2007, we have been removing blighted and substandard homes. That you're aware of, and we bear the brunt, and we have to pay for it. With that, we've knocked down an additional 366. So, if you go back to prior to 2007, there was 825 homes. They're gone. And with that, that affects valuation. Because they're no longer, and all there is just a lot. It is with a study by a commissioner, so I should have put Commissioner York's name right here. But it is, and going, you've seen that map, and we brought it, is the stick pin is going around and looking at substandard housing. Roughly, that is it, we'll just say we would, or he would, consider this as substandard, and that's 700 more homes. That is something that we've got to address too with the housing department. The age of it in Coffeyville, the housing age is, the majority was all built, the majority of homes were all built prior to 1960. This goes and gives you an idea of years built. According to our permits in this stuff, from 2010 until recently with Mike 80, he built those ones prior to, but 2010, we have not built a new home, which is not good, and you're aware of that. You can see, and this gives the years, how many homes were, we'll just say from 1900 to 1960, because you add those two figures together. It was booming and they were going. You remember after 1960, we started going the other way. This is just looking at a pie chart and just giving you an idea where the biggest were built. And this, you can't show a sliver because it was zero. Coffeyville housing units, it is one of those that this is, the census is 4,901. It is one that's saying that out of those housing units, which could be apartments, in-house, single-family homes, it is one of those 84.2% are occupied. So that's a pretty good rate, and it sits there and goes, there's not very much available out there. The question is out of those units, what are substandard and what are they living in that are rented? This is, and well, I'm sorry here, is the value of the homes. 82% of the homes that are in Coffeyville city limits are under a value under $100,000. This goes in and gives you the 212, and then of course 300,000 and over, you have 1%. Looking at those, and this is just giving you another pie chart to look at and see, you can see how much of that market is under 100,000. Income, we're going to look at that and talk, which we brought this up before. We're really looking hard on this, is anything that we design and go after, we've got to target a big population. We are still going to take care of upper income. We want to sit there and see what we can design that takes care of low income. It is one of those, that's just another trend. And like I said, this thing right now is giving us this to 50,000. Can you imagine what percentage of the population? It does give us an income, and what we take later is we sit there and go, what kind of reasonable principal and interest payment could they make? So we look at this line at 35,000 and less. They could actually go get a loan for $100,000 based on 4.75. We got to leave room for debt. They got a car. They got something else. So we can't take it home. That's that house for. You know, I make my payment, but I can't feed my family. But it gives us an idea that is there 15% right there could qualify for a $100,000 loan. So this gives us an idea of targets that we can design programs and things to do in the future. Rental units, like we talked, there's 1,705 rental units. The average cost is $608 per month. I think you standard the landlord licensing because of the standards that you saw people living in. It was one of those, the commission said, how can you expect somebody to live in it and charge $400 or $500? This is, and going over, these are blighted in the 306 and 825. It is one of those Coffeyville's housing summary, basically goes over and explains everything I just talked about. This is in our strategic plan. It does give you more in depth, but since I can't talk long, I gotta move fast. It's one of those. Now, this actually is which you're familiar, wants to sit there and go, what is the plan for? It recommends that we look for a balance. We approach it is, we got value statements, we've got all that. It enables, and our goal is enables residents to spend more locally and reach their economic potential, reduce public costs over long term, and is a critical part of the economic. This is what we want to focus on. It is, so that gets to our department. This is, and what you will see is, these are programs, local and state, that are available And as you're aware, we are going after one federal program right now. That's been our primary thrust. And if we get that program, that is a game changer for Coffee. There is workforce housing, and these talk for in low income, these are investments. It is one of those. All these programs we are interested in because it goes through the whole. It is what you'll see, USDA first-time home buyer. I believe Commissioner Maxson brought its House Bill 2187. House Bill 2187. It is where the state is going to come out, and basically it's a tax incentive for buying a new home, and it will come out in 22. So it is one of those, even the state's trying to do something. Now the state's not going to come out and fund money in this. Basically, it's going to get your return because once you pay taxes, you don't give them back. It'll give it back, but the state's even concerned in this, and we'll take advantage of that and make sure the new home construction, this is what the state's going to do for taxes. This right here is the Kansas Region. This is to promote home ownership. Kansas Housing Region Corp. There's another first-time home buyer program. The Kansas Housing Assistance Program, the USDA Single Family Direct Home Loans. It is one of those. These programs are going to be designed of getting people into homes. But then we don't want to forget, what about those that want to preserve? It is one of those we're kicking out, but you have the Kansas Housing Resource Corp. Weatherization Program. There is a lot of programs that Kansas Neighborhood Revitalization, that's upgrading your home and then actually getting a tax credit for it on property taxes. There's the Department of Energy, weatherization, and then of course there's the USD Rural Development Program. Now we go into where we're going to talk about people building maybe subdivisions. It is one of those developers. This right here is Kansas Rural Housing Incentive District. This is a different way of doing revitalization. If you're coming into new, this basically pays everything horizontal. Everything through horizontal through a tax credit program. Neighborhood revitalization, of course, that is there. Kansas Affordable Housing Tax Credits. And of course, housing revenue bonds, KHRC, moderate income housing, and that's when we've talked before. This is a grant. It's an application process based on what you do. It's competitive, but your return is, with no strings attached, is $350,000 to $400,000. That is based on your project, and it is competitive with other cities. You are approved. Once you complete your project as it was designed, then you get a check. Go on a vacation, do whatever you want with that. Give it back to your investors. Low-income housing tax credit. This is right here. Affordable housing is very profitable. If it wasn't, you wouldn't see it in the United States. But you see it all over because it is very profitable for an investor. Multi-family loans, there's Kansas Community Development Block. They do have a housing piece. You always heard of CDBG. CDBG has a housing piece of their programs. You have TIF, and this is something we'll get into in the future. It is one of those subsidies out of that. And then, of course, special assessment. That is a local incentive that you allow. With this, and then we come to the final reason I said that, is this is our USDA program. This is more in depth. We're sitting there saying, this is how it works, and this is the benefit. But the thing that I like is 10 homes per year, 20 homes over a 2-year period. Now you saw for the last, according to our books, the last 11 years, for 12, 0 homes there. This would be 10 homes per year. Then we build on that, and that is other construction. But when your community is saying that you can build 10 homes per year, people sit there and go, you're turning in the other direction. There's a other piece that we're looking into, and that's what we're spending on, knocking the site down, knocking the home down. That's actually sitting there is a program that could get some assistance. With that, in our plan, and what we're gonna see next is, we right now, and I will get into explaining this, is why you're getting this presentation tonight. It is one of those, these are the effects that we're going through right now. These are the things that cause lower valuation, which, our general fund takes the hit. These are the things that, when you have lower valuation, it means higher property taxes. Behold, something's got to give. Either you give up services or you tax more. So these are the things that are causing this. But sheriff sales, demolition, it is one of those. The industrial buyout, but that was, some of that is not to blame them, but as far as taking it off the tax rolls, it didn't help if you own within the city limits. It is natural disasters, and I don't want to get into the flood. Those are deal killers. But it is what causes the other is franchise fees collection. Less population, less people will pay services. We got a water system that's for 25,000, and we got 9,366. They got to maintain that system. It is one of those, population is key, but you got to have the chicken and the egg, housing to get population, population to get housing. This right thing is these are the things that we can have some control. Commute times, if you live in the city limits, you're not going to have this big long commute, especially if you're driving from Owasso. Oh, come live in Coffeyville where you can get up in 5 minutes, you can be at work. The thing is we always have to watch property taxes. It is one of those, the crime rate, that's our responsibility. These are our responsibility. Quality of life things, shopping, market condition. These are things that we maybe can't cure, but we have some responsibility. So, looking in the grand scheme of things, population is the key to Coffeyville. We all agree, we all know that. Up there is a piece that sits there and says housing. We got to have that. But the reason I'm getting to this, there's another piece right up there next to it, and that's quality of life. What that was is you had your Parks Board come to you and talk to you about that. And to say that that was far-fetched in what we want to do, it's a park. Education, we've got good schools. Healthcare, we got a good hospital. And economic development, that will only come in what we do. Crime prevention, this is what we got to work on and control. That leaves housing. And that leaves that quality of life in those circles to make this work. So, this is what I wanted to talk to the commission about. There's an expiring sales tax, which you were made aware of by the parks. It is one of those that expires in September of 22. If the commission, for your consideration in the future, it is one of those that what we would like to suggest to the commission is that other quarter that you had, and you remember looking back at that cluster, you have quality of life, which is parks, and that, when you're young and starting a family, that's one thing you consider, where you can take it. The other is housing. And you put those two together and they work together. We've got programs starting here and going here. We can do magic with that. The thing with housing, what we want to do is first, 33% of your sales tax collected is from people that live outside of Coffeyville. So, if you approve or want to move forward on this, just like the parks, a third of the people that come shopping that are outside this town are paying for what Coffeyville can benefit from. It is, always sales tax stays in Coffeyville. We're not shipping it away. It is one of those that, with these programs, you can imagine, is if we had housing and had leverage with this, that you can sit there and we can deal more with other programs and federal programs. The thing that we want to show is that if the commission approves for this as a sales tax question, is there a budget? Will you guarantee us how this is going to use? And that's what we want to show. No more smoke and mirrors, trust us if you can, and that is just like parks. When it said parks, if the voters should approve this, if you wish to go forward with this and put it to the election, we can tell you what year that park will be done. We have a whole year dedicated to making that into a park and doing what we say. Housing is the same way. These are programs that we suggest the commission would consider if this goes, because you're going to need funding. One is we have our own first-time home buyer program. Our own first-time buyer, and then we stack every first home buyer on top of it to make us attractive. You can imagine getting this and then get that 2187, House Bill 2187, and then they go, oh, well, you're going to get property tax. And then we stack, and now you can't take from something twice, but it is we can sit there and stack these things with other programs to make it real attractive to build or improve your home in Coffeyville. Others is, this would be new construction. You go build that house, we'll sit there and give you this where you build the house. We'll let you use any other program and stack on it. But this is our commitment to getting you to come to Coffeyville. The next is the multifamily, and that's if you build apartments. We'll give you per door if you build in Coffeyville. And I will tell you, if that glass is half full, we're going to be attractive to any apartment management firm in Wichita, in Tulsa, or anywhere. Because you've got that 2,368 people that live outside, and all you're asking for is 100. 100 renters that live somewhere outside out of that 2,300. There is a piece that we want to, and part of that is emergency home repair. This is designed for our senior citizen population. This is for the elderly or the disabled. Now, there's limited funds no matter what we do. But this is sitting there giving that hope that we can help you. And you can imagine if you qualify for that Department of Energy program, and then you put this with it. There's a lot of magic that you can do for those that can't do it. And those substandard maybe become standard. The next is weatherization, and it's for the senior and the disabled. We're going to do anything that we already know there's another federal program. Hate the town as a piece just to sit there and say, hey, we'll work with you, we'll give you $300 if you qualify, and we will work with the local churches. We'll look for service groups. There's going to be people that will qualify that can't pay their home. And we will work out some way to make sure they don't turn around and sell the paper. This is, and Charlotte developed this is, and I'm sorry there's a little more color in these things and underlining, but basically this is what a brochure would look like, and you have that in before. These are the things that we're going to have in everything that we do. In other words, if you walk in and say what's available for the city, boom. If you're a developer, boom. This will give what we all can do. The thing here is this is, and she did a fantastic putting this together. To give you an idea, these are the programs that we want to do. And what we're asking for is this is a 10-year budget. If the commission would like to put this on with the quarter and quarter, with parks, what this does is in a perfect world. This sits there and says, based on this amount, 20 homes will be built. It is multifamily, 30 apartment doors will be built. Either all one unit or duplexes or that. First-time home buyer, 30 first-time home buyers can see. And this is strictly for inside Coffeyville city limits. It's not to go buy some out in the country. Senior citizen program, 25. 25 in the weatherization and 70 homes based on that price to assist 70 homes, and that is per year. This does, the more the successful program, that number will change in the budget. But it isn't to keep this, it is sit there and do the most that we can to attract people to Coffeyville. And this is a big step. The thing why I'm asking the commission and pointing this out is we will always fight and do the federal. Your housing department will never go away. We're committed, there's programs, and like say, the one that we're feel strongly that we're gonna get that will change Coffeyville, that will always be. But this is a piece that goes to everybody in the community. Your property values will benefit from this. If anything, it'll change their quality of life and what they live in. So just like the parks piece, everybody in one form or the other will benefit from this. And that is a sales tax that is pretty hard to deny. That it is. When we put down roads, if you weren't here before and saw the road, you didn't know it was cracked. These are the things that sitting there going, you can go out and you can see those houses that are painted. You can go see these programs and people building. But this is solely for them. This is solely for the community, and it is one of those, they can see this program. It's not to hoard it, it's not to hide it, it's sitting there going, just like the other one, this is what we're going to do. And as we have leftover funds, then there's more we can do. This will be a snowball that just gets bigger and bigger as we do more. So, in conclusion of this is, the Parks Board came before you, and I guess I'm coming before you, is if the commission would consider, I'm not asking for the commission to make a decision tonight or that, but the commission consider, just like the Parks Board, that with the expiring sales tax, that we go forward and possibly combine a quarter of that for parks improvements and the other quarter for housing. I would hate to see something, it's not a new tax, it's just a repurposed tax. Nobody will sit there and feel this change in any way, because it's not. But when you do, and you can see what you can get out of this program and what out of the parks program, and you remember, a third of those that visit Coffeyville are gonna help pay for all this stuff. So, that's kind of the end. Sorry for taking so long. We got ramped up. I think I was ready to hear an amen. You're close. So, it is.
Close to getting one.
And for commission's consideration. So, that's housing, and I do want to thank our housing department. We've got a couple right here, but Thomas, you know, to know him's to love him. He's the engineer. And then, of course, you have our new director, Charlie Brown. So it is one of those that are dedicated, and like I said, this application process that we're going through is pretty deep, but you can see why it is so deep, because the reward is the only time you went, in experience in the past, the only time when you went over $20,000 in population is, yeah, you do gotta go to Washington. And you do gotta try to ask to be grandfathered. But it is one of those, until we hit that, this program keeps going. Unless something happens, and it is a very good program for the federal government. They can't lose in this program, and that's what's cool about it. So, anyway, thank you, and I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mark,
Thank you,
very,
Mark.
very much. Appreciate that. Lots of good things there. Okay, we'll move on to item 12, which is our city manager again.
There
You have anything you want to add?
I would
Take
just,
a drink of that water.
Yeah, please.
I would, and I'm standing right now. Anyway, I would like to thank all the departments. You know, of course, the heat that's going on and working through that. I just want to thank them for what they're done. It is one of those that we are moving ahead. The Feaster will be going up soon, the playground.
Yeah, good.
It is one of those that I just want to thank them. And of course, I'll embarrass Mike by sitting there saying his electric, they still exceed our expectations. Are you embarrassed yet? No, okay. But this is, and I want to thank Stephanie, what you're going to see in the next 2 nights. I told her, basically her life is terrible for 7 months out of the year. She's got end of the year, and then you go into budget, and you sit there and you go, you know, until August when the budget's approved, your life is terrible. So I do appreciate what she's doing. I do. Jim, his people are working out in this heat and this stuff and keeping ahead of it. It's sad because just when you hope that the drought will keep things from growing, we get hit with some rain. And of course, all the others are here, but staff is committed to making Coffeyville great, and it is one of those. Thank you for believing in us and moving the city forward. So that's it, unless there's any other questions.
Okay.
Looking at your report here, and one of the things I've been looking at on some of that study as well, and looking at the latest census data, and so I did some comparison between Coffeyville and our neighbor to the north, and they're experiencing a lot of the same issues
Oh, yeah.
that we are. Their poverty rate's on an increase as well.
Yes.
Their median income is down compared to where it was at. Their population's down compared
Yes.
to where it was at. So it's not just a Coffeyville thing, it's a regional thing. And I would argue it's probably a rural community thing across the
Oh, I
whole
think,
country.
you know, and I agree with that. The new rural development, you know, that was recently formed, we did a zoom in on that. And what was funny is every city that was involved in that Zoom, and then there was people present. It is, what do we do? How do we cure housing? And the thing that was interesting is none of them had an answer.
Right.
And I think, and not to say that, you know, oh my gosh, everything we do is going to be a success, but I think with what, you know, the Charla and Thomas and working with this is this actually stops kicking the can down the road. And actually, instead of saying, oh my gosh, we sure hope somebody picks us, is we're going to go get them. And we'll have something that I really feel strongly in. Coffeyville's got great people. They're tough as nails. Oh my gosh. You know, you survived a flood. You know, insects are coming, you're going to be okay. And it is that that Coffeyville strong is, I thoroughly believe it. And I think this is something that going forward, if the commission wishes to place this as a question in November, is I hope they realize this is an actually give back to them. It's a give back to the people that's sitting there going, we'll either help you through housing or some way, or raise your property values or do that, or we'll give you a place to go with your child at no cost no matter, and you can imagine, almost a third is in poverty, they can go to every park. They can go to any park that they want to, and nobody's going to ask them how much money they make. Or the kids sit there and say that they can't go because they're in poverty. I think it's a great gift to the community.
Do we have any numbers, and I haven't been able to research this yet, that show, so out of the 65% of our workforce that doesn't live in the city limits, what's the average distance from the city limits that most of those folks live?
What we were, and there was an interesting, and I don't want to mention Mr. Olson, but he had a curiosity, which I think it would be as we go forward, and I think CVR, because, you know, in talking with Mr. Fons when he used to be here, is his was that when you drive clear to, one, you risk your life anytime you get on the road. But if you can get a quality home and you have a great place to raise your kid,
That's right.
you'd rather live where you get up and, you know, drive 5 minutes and you're at work.
Yeah, yeah.
It is one of those in trying to find is approaching a John Deere and approaching a CVR and the major employees, including the hospital, and ask if they could do a survey of sitting there going, please tell us how many are living out, I mean, of your group. The other is trying to pinpoint how much, and I want to say, loss that we're dealing with. How many jobs, which we already know, a low-paying job is not going to drive from Owasso. They're not. We know that and given. But you actually see is what kind of investments out there, and actually having kind of a this is our starting salary that we pay at so-and-so employer, and trying to pinpoint is sitting there going, for all these people that are leaving, this is how many millions and millions of dollars in wage that is going and paying property taxes somewhere else.
I wondered, and I was having a conversation with somebody the other day about this. So if you just took in a 10-mile radius of Coffeyville, what does that do to our median income and our poverty rate if you incorporated those folks within that number? That
Yes.
live within a 10-mile radius.
That's
of Coffeyville,
interesting.
right?
Yeah.
So, and I don't have those numbers, but
Well, Charlie will get them for you, right? Is that right, Charlie? Yeah, Charlie will get to work on this, and we'll have you an answer tomorrow.
Thank you.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
But those are the things that we want to give to investors. And you can imagine this information that you present to them, that this is half full. When you start sitting there going, if I'm going to put in an apartment, and I'm in the management of apartment complexes, I'm a Van Sickle that sits there and goes, you know, I build upper end and I know what I'm doing. And you sit there and you go, we got a place for you. And then, so what do I got to draw? Who am I competing against? You can draw from 2,368 people. Well, all I want is 100.
Right.
Oh, that's not bad odds. I do something, and you can imagine, I'm a professional. Teachers, people that come into this community, I don't want to buy yet, but I want something very nice. Now, there'll always be rental. Psh, don't give up your rentals. We're not going to actually at that. There will always be a need for rental in Coffeyville.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on to comments from commissioners and staff. Does anybody have anything?
So I spent a lot of the week, last week and this last weekend out at the park with the summer celebration folks. And first of all, our staff, our public service staff, our water department guys, man, what a job they did. And they were out there working their tails off and just did a wonderful, wonderful service. Mr. Bradshaw, I want to compliment him on the campgrounds out there. So we had some issues with some of our camping areas with people that have just basically taken up residence, and so we got that cleaned up, and they're now living over in the more expensive section of the campgrounds on a more of a long-term basis. So I want to thank Jim and his folks for getting that done. It was badly needed, and thank you. to Gail Smith, to Andy Duncan and Mike Bradley, who are the chief organizers of the summer celebration. We owe them such a huge thank you. What a great day it was out there. I believe they had like 70 vendors out there. So one of the best car shows you'd ever see. I know they gave away over 70 trophies. The Kitty Car Parade, what a great event that is. And just a fun day. The Retro Rockers, Backroads Band played just wonderful music. Everybody really enjoyed. And what a fireworks show. So I do want to reach out to the PD or the FOP and the firefighters union as well. So they did a fundraiser out there as well this weekend and put a lot of effort into it. The fire department helped the community college with the duck clash, which is always a big event for that as well. And so just a really great community weekend. I did run into there was a couple that came into the campgrounds from Wyoming, and they were only going to be here Friday. But I was the wastewater guy, or the water department guys were actually out there working on a water leak, and they come pulling up with their camper. And I got to visit with them a little bit, and they were going to go see the Dalton Museum. So I saw them Friday as they were getting ready to pull out and leave out. They were on their way to Birmingham, Alabama. And he said, what a wonderful community. And they just had a great visit, and boy, the campgrounds looked wonderful. And unfortunately, they weren't able to stay for the summer celebration. They had a new grandbaby to go see in Birmingham, Alabama, but it just made our community look really good. It gives you pride to be a part of that. So.
Yes. Okay, anybody else? Okay. All right, we will move on. We now have executive session, and so Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, and first we'll take a 5-minute break, but then we will go into, make a motion that we recess to executive session to discuss personnel matters of non-elected personnel pursuant to the open meetings exception set forth in KSA 75-4319B1 to reconvene in the commission room at, say, let's make it 8:50. Okay, we'll take a 5-minute break and then we'll go into executive session. And then about 8:50 is when we'll reconvene.
Second.
Motion is made by Mayor Van Alster, seconded by Vice Mayor Doan, to recess to executive session to discuss personnel matters of non-elected personnel pursuant to the open meetings exception set forth in KSA 75-4319B1 to reconvene in the commission room at 8:50. Commissioner York.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Doan.
Aye.
Mayor Van Alster.
Aye.
Commissioner Bauer.
Aye.
Commissioner Maxon.
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
seconded by Mayor Van Oster to adjourn. Can I see a show of hands? Thank you.
You didn't even need to repeat that.